Welcome back. It's almost time. District Champs is just around the corner. We've got some awesome content here on Peach Pit to talk about. We'll talk a little bit about some Albany review, but the real exciting content here is looking forward to this upcoming weekend's District Championship event here in PCH. We are your Peach Pit crew, and we're here to bring you, again, some content about Albany and what we're looking forward to. But before we get started, we have to make the usual disclaimer. Any views or opinions shared on this show are solely that of the individual contributor and do not reflect the views of Peach Pit, any FRC team, First, Georgia First, or any other affiliates and sponsors. So, the idea behind this show is to serve as an FRC talk show that focuses primarily on the Peachtree District. We're going to be talking about a variety of topics, so don't be surprised if you see us drop some hot takes. Ultimately, we're hoping to provide some entertaining and engaging discussions. With that said, we're going to jump into some introductions. My name is Kellen Hill. I'm a mentor for Team Auto 1746 out of Cumming, Georgia.
I'm Thomas. I'm a mentor for Team 1746 OTTO.
I'm Brian Carlson, a mentor with 6829 Ignite Robotics.
My name is Anupam Goli. I am the head coach for Team 1746 Auto.
All right. Glad to have everybody here. Always fun hanging out with a lot of you. So we have some obligatory content to cover for some Albany review. We'll try to push through it and get to the exciting content, which is sure to be a good bit of fun. But let's talk a little bit about Albany. Let's start with some conversation about the qualification matches at Albany. I think some of the interesting conversation there was that there was no clear front runner before the event. There was a kind of a muddled top tier. We didn't know who was going to come out in front, but as we saw as the rankings went out, the consistency went out. So what do you guys think?
Yeah.
I think that if this goes into ELEMs, but I think Techno Titans Friendly Fire on 14-14 is one of the that had the biggest impact on finals more than anything else.
Yeah, talking about the consistency thing, it's obviously a huge thing to be an incredibly durable robot, and if you're going up to that traversal bar, it sure gives you a long way down.
I don't think that's a durability issue. They were knocked off their bars by another team. That's not something you expect to happen.
I don't care if you're putting your robot that high in the air and you're having other robots climb next to you. You gotta. I'm not saying you expect these things, but you certainly gotta think about them. Not that it's hard to design a robot that can handle that fall.
I think a lot of the traversal climb designs outside 6705 that actually grabs onto the bar and swings from one to the next. 1771 had that problem at Dalton, right? They fell and almost cost them the competition because they could not securely hold on. And I had the same problem. 6919 had that at Columbus.
Didn't even make the robot out of wood.
Yeah.
If they would have replacements ready to go, right? So I thought it was very interesting. Early on, IHOT in 1261 sort of were going back and forth for battling out who's going to rank one, and there was a muddling of teams beneath there. It was just a very interesting day in day one, and day two things sort of changed a little more. Things sort of solidified. Teams got going a little more. So fun event.
I'm going to show the clip of the IHOT fall real quick, or the friendly fire on them.
The first friendly fire on them.
The first friendly fire.
Ignite tried to replicate this series of events later on with a little less success. But
we're just trying to help you get up there a little faster.
They looked like they needed a nudge.
Yeah.
For any 1414 listeners, we're sorry to, relive these tragedies, but You got to do what you got to do.
So here we go. We're seeing them go high bar. Boom. They get the high bar. Then they're going for the traversal. 8 seconds left. They're in good position. Then 1683 comes in. Oof. A little too hot there.
But
I'm not entirely sure what they were trying to do with they came
Which
in.
one are you? I'm seeing.
Sorry, 1683.
I'm not seeing iHot.
They're hanging on the traversal there.
I'm seeing a. Okay, there's a lag. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can see the reaction of the whole driver station, like backing up 10
Yeah.
feet simultaneously.
The unusual thing about that fall, right, was normally everybody falls on their drivetrain. They didn't fall onto the ground. They sort of got pushed their climb arms into the driver station. That was definitely unusual. But I definitely had a really good bot, and even though after that wreck, they still continue to excel. So that they may have caused problems later on, but they're still able to function and do really well. End up taking 1 overall.
And that's the crazy part about it is with a 26-team event, you have very little time. We were fortunate that for anybody not at the event who had gone to Columbus, that Georgia First had made the decision to. There are only 26 teams, but we're just going to play 12 quals matches. That personally, I was thrilled about that decision. That even with the 12, there was pretty quick turnaround times to get the robot, systems tested, any repairs, any hopes for any slight improvements to your robot.
Yeah,
it was very, very, on top of your game kind of event. So yeah, if anything did go wrong, you had to be very ready for it.
I was about to also shout out the Georgia Planning Committee for Albany for not sticking to just 12 matches, giving us, at the beginning of the event, they were doing 10-minute turnarounds, and then midway through Friday, they switched to 8-minute turnarounds. And I think that really helped keep the event a little bit less stressful, giving teams more time to work on the robot. I know iHot was in the pit next to us, and they were constantly working on it. We were constantly working on it. It was great.
Yeah, we were constantly at the practice field trying to work on. First, we were trying to do 4-ball auton, and we gave up after our first match when that sort of bricked our programming, sort of bricked our bot that first match. We're like, okay, that's definitely a software issue. Let's do that later. Can't risk at this competition. You can't risk that. But we spent a lot of time on the practice field, and it allowed us to start dialing things in a little more.
Yeah, this was our first time being for 1746 actually are participating at the Albany event. So we're very happy with the venue. The pits were great. We were on the opposite side of the venue from the practice field, but it's hard to ask for too much more there. Great spectating from the stands for watching matches.
I will
big
say,
fan of the venue all around.
I'll say it did take us a minute to calibrate our limelight, and even then, from different angles on the hub, it was difficult to calibrate it with the overhead lighting there. But maybe we were just not as familiar with calibrating the vision cameras.
Yeah, I think one of our students, I'm not sure if it was on our drive team or actually maybe our scouts in the field, they seem to recognize from one side of the hub, not the driver station ends, but the side by side. On one side, it was harder for us to see, and we tend to shoot a little bit. We're off on those things. So yeah, it's rough when the lighting or sunlight from those events gets involved in it, but it happens. Sort of work around it. The one thing I liked a lot, we in match quals 3 or 4 for us, we came off the field. We were basically unable to track and see the target. And previously, I think probably from Dalton, we had damaged the USB cable going to our limelight. We thought maybe those pins were. We broke off the white tab inside the limelight that the USB goes into, and we thought maybe those pins were shorting out, and that was causing our signal losses. And this game is really rough to do if you don't have vision. And so I want to shout out to Otto for loaning us a Limelight, and they actually took it off your robot since you weren't using it to allow us to borrow it. And also to Techno Titans, they came over. They had heard that we had a Limelight problem, and they said they had a spare to loan us if we needed it. So I really love seeing those expressions of gracious professionalism, trying to help each other, have fun, so everybody can, all the students can have a fun experience instead of just saying, we're 4 matches in and now we really can't do much. So thank you, Otto and Techno Titans, for those offers. Turns out that it wasn't a broken Limelight afterwards. We did some more debugging. There was a Limelight update about some connectivity issues about a month ago. When we applied that firmware update, it seemed to go away, but we did not know that at the time.
Yeah, that's the name of the game, gracious professionalism, right? It's much more inspiring to see teams compete at their best and, want to play teams at their best and win against them at their best, right? So, and that's just the ethos of FIRST. It's about inspiration. Nothing more inspiring than, seeing y'all put 15 balls in a match and then trying to strategize on how to beat that.
Yeah. So I know that Techno Titans, IHOT had their fall, but I don't think that was the only mishap that happened that day. Anything on your guys' side over on Team Otto?
So we kind of joshed Walton a little bit last week for their graceful fall at the end of a match. I don't know if we can one-up you with this one, but we at least made our own attempt at replicating that. Here, I'll pull this up. So midway through, not this match, qualification, not even this match. Here we go. Qualification 13. Let's see. We're picking up some cargo, or we're shooting some cargo off. Can y'all see this video?
Yep.
Yeah. And we're on Red Alliance here. You can see our bot kind of just grabbing some cargo, coming over to shoot. I'll do some low goals. All right, and here we go. Ooh. We just kind of tripped over that wire bump. And Kellen can talk a little bit more about this, but we've been having some issues with that wire bump the whole season.
Well, so we actually had we put in a lot of effort into making our center of gravity as low as possible for our shooter motors wind up being down at the bottom of a robot that are belted up, but we wind up being semi-light. I think we cleared the 100-pound mark at this event for a couple add-ons for 1 or 2 things, but our driver after this match actually tried making the claim that he was continuously driving in a straight line, but rewatching this a couple of times, it seems like there's clear action to stop that. But all I can imagine is that we have 4-wheel drive, but that the front wheels are hitting, that we're going fast enough that those are getting up in the air, that by the time our back wheels hit, is that we get enough energy then kicking up, but our battery's all the way back at the back end of the robot, so it had to do quite a bit of energy there for being able to. Yeah, but again, just like the Walton fall, luckily it was a soft one, no real issues. But something we actually fell on that face plant was our Limelight mount. But conveniently, we had just lent our Limelight to Ignite. So our Limelight was not on the robot to be broken in this fall, and it was just a series of fortunate events.
I just noticed this on the big screen. You can see that the camera is zoomed in on our tipped over robot there. Add a little
props once again to the Georgia First AV crew for their timely footage.
So I would say you one up Walton. They had code to stop that, and it was just the end of match, where they basically automatically went into break mode that caused it. Where I think your driving caused that one.
I'm just sad because we had just gotten the cargo RP. But if we hadn't have fallen over, we would have had a 4 RP match on that one. That was
2 RP, we would have lost the match.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, good point.
That would have been a
down
unicorn
21 points.
Oh, that was
Wait.
against us. Oh.
Wait, you
I didn't
used
know
our
that.
limelight against us? How dare you?
Strangely enough, I didn't see that match.
That could have been a unicorn match with the 4+2 RP. And that actually leads me to talk about a statistic that I saw on the Blue Alliance here. So first of all, he's noticed that the cargo RP was achieved more than the hangar bonus RP here in 28 instances versus 25, but also we had more than a quarter of the matches feature the cargo bonus RP, almost a quarter feature the hangar bonus, and we had 16 unicorn matches, which is the win, the cargo bonus, and the hangar bonus. So,
which I'm trying to compare to Carrollton here. So
Yeah.
Carrollton had their hangar RP. So we actually had a higher cargo bonus RP than Carrollton did. Let's see. For Albany was 25% or
26 for the cargo.
26.92, and compared to 23 at Carrollton. But Carrollton then had like a 33.5% hangar RP compared.
Yeah.
So that was a much more consistent one that was reached. But again, I think that's still surprising. I think a lot of those had to do more with locals at this event. But still awesome to see those numbers bumping up. And I think, again, leading into some intriguing discussion for district champs.
Yeah, it was interesting that going into this event, there's one team, Commodore 6919, that had put up 20 cargo one time early on at Columbus. But most of the teams that were sort of in the hunt to win the thing were all in that like 8 to 10 range. And so it really was a combination of the whole alliance, not just one team doing most of it and needing a little help. It really needed all three bots.
Mm-hmm. I think that speaks to like the mid-tier level of depth at Albany. I mean, obviously, towards the bottom, teams struggled, but there were just a lot of teams that were capable of low-goaling and getting that cargo RP. Like, I don't know how many matches at Carrollton saw 30 plus cargo scored on an alliance, but we hit that with one of our alliances in quals, and it was just low goals only. And I've only ever seen 1771 and mechanisms really approach that 30 cargo mark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely, especially when we got towards the end, and everybody's really getting dialed in, and the score is starting to go up. It was definitely a fun match. There weren't any of those throwaway matches where it's like 15 points gets you in. Everybody was able to do stuff.
Well, that's where I think it's interesting. I know Ignite was all over it, looking at the rankings and kind of figuring out how Saturday matches were going to play out for ranking and who's going to make a push to the top seeds. But I think it's very interesting to look at. All right, what's the full spread on the qual schedule, and what RP do you need to make sure you're getting in? Don't let the easy ones slip away, because you're going to have hard matches that you're not going to get all those RP to try sticking up there at the top of the rankings. And again, that's going to be important looking into this upcoming weekend. Mm-hmm. Any quals performances or improvements from prior events really stand out to you for any of the robots at Albany?
Well, I was really impressed by how 14-14 just came out the gate. I was something I noticed at Columbus is they were really good traversal bar climb. They seem to have issues with their intake and with their shooter, but until their fall and subsequent other falls, they were far and away, I think, one of the better robots at the event.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really liked Commodore 6919. They were in the that 8 range. They had that 20 at like quals 2 or 3 at Columbus. But as they got to elims, they were really starting to dial it in. Some of the issues they had with their cargo interfering, their own cargo bouncing out, and their alignment without having a limelight. They got that dialed in. It was really, by the time the quals came or elims came around, they were really locked in.
I think my favorite robot at that event was, other than 6919, was 7315, the little low goaler on a swerve. So it turns out that swerve chassis was part of a project that Commodores were doing, and 7315, they lent the swerve chassis design to 7315, helped them out with it, and 7315 put a little low goaler intake on it. With, I don't know if they ever got the passive climber working, but
They did. It was working in Elims.
awesome. That thing was so cool to watch, just swerve around the field, putting up low goals. That was really cool. I think one of my favorite robots, and I don't know if they made the cut for state championships.
They did. I think they just barely made it in.
That is going to be a killer third robot at state championships.
Be fun to watch. A huge shout out to Brian and the Ignite gang for the massive improvement from their first event up in Dalton. You had some really improved cargo output towards the end that I think you got the attention, obviously, of IHOT for being the number one overall selection. So congratulations on that.
I was like, that's the way we do it, right? It's like I was if you looked at day one, we were basically 5-7 range, and then our programming got some dialed in a little more on their limelight. Our drivers were driving better, so I was not expecting what came, but it was great to see it happen though.
Yeah,
that's one of the most gratifying parts about all of FIRST essentially is designing something, conceptualizing something, and then the gratification of seeing it work as it was intended to.
With the obligatory video, it worked the first time, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. When does it not work the first time? I think it always works the first time.
Yeah.
But awesome work there on that improvement.
I also want to shout out our Alliance captain, Techno Titans. They really turned it around at Dalton. They were kind of shaky there, and then they came into this event, and they were constantly vying for a top seed spot. They had gotten a consistent high goal shot. They were working on a multi-ball auton, and it was fun to play with them in quarters and semis, and I'm hoping to see them make even more improvements for state championship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. I think that hits a lot of the notes we had for our qualification matches at Albany. Any thoughts on Alliance selection at Albany?
I think thoughts.
Coming from Alliance selection, I think outside of 1414's first pick, it pretty much went as what I expected. And towards the end of it, it really just became just for third bots, which third bots could move and which third bots could. So it just became in Alliance selection. When talking with both 1683 and our students, we're like, okay, this is the pick we want, and then every single time it was immediately picked. So you live and you learn. But it's just one of those where due to how few teams there were, it became very clear. Okay, you're picking at scraps towards the end of it.
So I wanted to go back to like the first round selections. And Brian, this is not like anything against you or your guys' teams. I was a little surprised though at IHOT picking you guys number one. I honestly thought they would go for the Commodores.
That's who I had them picking.
Yeah, I expected IHOT, Commodores, 1261, and Techno Titans. All three of those four started teaming up in pairs. I when I was looking at the night before with our strategy team, I was like, I expected us to be more of, maybe a captain at the 5 or 6 spot down in that area. And even though we put up, good numbers in our first 2 matches, I was like, it is the last couple matches, but there was day one. So that one sort of surprised me too. Gracious that, love that, that happened. And that, they thought that highly of us, but it was definitely something I did not expect.
That's where I think there has to be a lot of appreciation for that trend line kind of thing. Watching for teams that, yeah, you might not have had the consistent performance throughout quals, but you turned it on and you kept it on late, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah,
that's where I think what happens on Friday is what puts you in a picking position, but what happens Saturday is often what gets you picked.
I think the turning point was when we played with IHOT against 1261, and in that match we had heavy D on us, but we still put up 8 or 9, and together we did I think a competition high score of like a 92, and I think that memory sort of was heavy in their mind based upon the first quals match where we had noticeable improvement. So yeah, there is the remembrance bias, right? And how did we play together?
No better audition than a quals match together on Saturday morning for this is what it could be.
yeah.
Well, so on alliance selection, I did want to note, where's my notes? Oh, so I kind of saw it. I thought it was surprising that was it 3635 had declined 7315. Was that what happened there?
Yeah, 36-35 had declined the 5 seed, I believe.
That really surprised me. That was a big one. I thought, and 36-35, wonderful job, ended up putting together a really, really good alliance. But I think looking at it, if you say 73-15 ain't no slouch, you get an earlier quals or an earlier quarters matchup because you're against the 4 instead of the 3. Yes, your semis is harder, but looking at the way the event was going to pan out, semis on either side of the bracket was just not going to be fun.
Yeah.
You're either against a Ignite, IHOT, or 1261 and 6919. Like either way, you're facing. It's not like one side of the bracket is really a lot better than the other. So I think you say yes there. You get to semis. That's more district points than losing in quals. You get more district points if you say yes to a 5 than you do as a 6 alliance captain. Just even playing that game. So I honestly thought they would have said yes. They said no. I think they ended up making a really good pick. I believe they picked 4701 as their first robot. I think that the fact that both of those teams were semi-available is just pretty big.
That brings me to my other point, Thomas. 7315, I feel like rather than going with Asimovians 5632, they should have gone with 4701. Like this was the first upset in the PCH district in playoffs, the 5 seed beating the 4 seed in quarterfinals. But I think 7315 picking 4701 would have made a little more sense. With 4701 didn't just low goal, they did some high goals as well, whereas 5632 kind of locked you in on low goals, and I don't know if they climbed, whereas 4701 had the passive mid-bar climber.
So every single member of that 73-15 alliance did climb in elims.
Okay. So 5632 did have that climb.
Yeah, they have a little hook that goes up on the side and just gets them a mid bar. But I think other than that, I think elims played out how everybody kind of expected. Not how I would have hoped it would have played out, but 1 versus 2 in the finals, and then it was the case of 2 who had just really ramped up into finals, and then
that and the durability of the one alliance for
in.
IHOT having that problems to deal with. I know we had our share of bumps. I think we had between our 2 semifinals matches, we had to replace a Spark Max. That was a fun one.
I did want to bring up one point. The number 8 alliance captain that ended up there was 1795. They could not score any cargo or climb at all. They were a pure defense robot. I thought that was kind of wild that they ended up becoming the captain of the 8 seed there.
That's where I think they got the amount of inner picking that happened really kind of hurt teams like that, because they were ranked 14th going into alliance selection, which is pretty much the safe, oh, you're not going to have to pick. If I generally, as a rule, if you're below 12, you don't really have to, you're going to get picked. You're not going to be in a position to pick. But the fact that they moved up all the way into the 8th seed, it was quite remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, scouting's
Yeah.
scouting's really important. I know when we were looking at our 3-bot picks, we were going through and it's like, okay, let's look at all these things, and knowing who drove well, who got fouls, who died, and all those kind of things. Down at the 7 and 8 seed, there's a lot more down there. But when you're down there, you're looking for a quality first pick more than worrying about the quality of the second pick, right? And then up top, you're looking at, well, how can you find that diamond in the rough? And so scouting and making sure you know the data, just don't know the rankings and Blue Alliance data, but understand what people did is really important.
And
yeah, sometimes you're spoiled by the options. Other times you have to have enough detail.
Yeah.
To
and
sort
I think
through the few options.
The biggest part isn't just finding the data; it's using it the correct way. Because just because a team, if the team that you want to pick is so good that because they have a 5-ball auton, but you also have a 5-ball auton, the value of that 5-ball decreases because you're filling that need. So I think it just the big part for teams is to realize what the data is, but then also try and analyze it in such a way that you're not end up just picking 5-ball auton teams and then realizing that can't really use all. You can't score 15 balls in autonomous.
Yeah. I think this match lived up to, or this competition lived up to what I expected. Where if you play this thing 5 times, you get 5 different winners. You look at the top, 2 or 3 seeds, right? Any of those teams can play together and they can all do just as well. They may have had their preference they wanted to play with, but there wasn't a gap where you had to get, here's the top 3 bots and those 2 that pair up win, right? This was definitely you could play the game, strategize because you had a shot to win.
Well, that's where I think I would generally agree, Brian, with most of the teams other than 69-19. That's where I think 69-19 paired with any of those teams wins the whole thing, no matter what. They pair with us, they pair with you guys, Techno Titans, iHot. They win the whole thing because I think they were the best team there. And I think and we saw that in playoffs with the end result as well. But outside of Commodores, like any of those like top 3, even top 4 alliances, like they do some inner swapping of members, they all have a shot at taking home the banner.
Yep. So that's Albany Elims. Do we want to move into a preview for states?
I want to show one clip from Albany playoffs. So unfortunately, the semis and finals aren't available because otherwise I would be totally showing the last second climb that Team Auto pulled off. That was
fabulous.
5-second climb.
That was the coolest thing, I think. Our whole team was ecstatic. And even though we had just lost, everyone was like, oh my gosh, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was my satisfaction thing for getting to see the thing we designed do exactly what it was supposed to do. I'd worked with a group of freshmen on our team throughout the season and getting that climber together, and it was pure joy seeing it do exactly that.
The clip I did want to show was the quarterfinal 3 match. This was 69-19 and 12-61 and 69-10's lowest scoring quarterfinal match. I don't know how much of it was because of the strategy. I would say most of that being low scoring was mainly because they were still gelling together as an alliance, but there was a good strategic component. I'm going to play this whole match in 2 times speed. There we go. Playback speed 2 times. And let's go to the beginning here. Dun, dun, dun. But there's 2 things I want you to note on this match. So first of all, we'll get through autonomous here. So you'll notice that the blue bot comes over to disrupt 1261, and they play some pretty hard defense on them. Then the red team, 6910, comes over to play counter defense on them for a little bit and shoves some blue balls over to their side of the field. So you notice that there's a bunch of blue balls on the red side of the field. Mm-hmm. Now, you'll see this, wait for it a little bit. Now you see 6471 realize, either they realize this or what, but they start picking up red cargo and shoving it onto the blue side of the field. So now there's this like double game of starvation going on here. So you notice, look at I'm going to pause this right now. Look at, there we go. Oh, it's not going to pause properly. There.
One thing I want to warn teams that strategy is of seeing 6471 funnel balls into that climbing zone. If you put more than 3 balls there, it is a penalty. It's G404, no hoarding the balls. Your team cannot control more than or prevent team from more than 3 of the opposite color balls, whether that be you're holding 2 and you got 1 in the corner that your robot is blocking, in the climbing zone where if they come in, it's a foul. So that's where if you're hoarding the balls, you got to be really careful how you do it and where you put it, or it becomes a foul.
Right.
And I think the refs are put in a very tricky position because if let's say if you already have the 3 red cargo in your climbing zone and one happens to roll out of the hub straight into your climbing zone, that there was no intention on that cargo being put there, but you're all of a sudden partially responsible for it being there. So it's a very fine line game to play, I think, for that ball starvation strategy.
Right, and these weren't being placed there, right? They're from the other side of the field being hit, right? They just happened to go far enough to get into the hangar.
Sorry,
I think if you're wanting to do this, and I think it was a marvelous job by the Blue Alliance keeping it this close, but I think the best place to put it is right on that wall of the hub, where teams can't see it.
Yeah,
because it's not a penalty.
It's kind of hard to do from the opposite side of the field when you're playing defense, though.
Yeah. Well, no, he's saying like take ball. So like if you're blue side, take red balls and put it in up against your face of the hub. That way you can see where it is, but the other alliance cannot. Yeah. So just take a look at this real quick. 6919 just shot 2 balls. Do you see any red cargo on the red side of the field right now?
No.
So Red Alliance teams all have to go to the blue side of the field right now or wait for the balls to come from the hub to pick up red balls, right? So this is a perfect example of ball starvation on that side. And I wanted to go like back to the beginning. We saw this, and now we see a little bit. Notice how 6919 is essentially using the opposite side of the hub. And notice how you have 1261, 6910, and a blue defender, 7538, all on that one side. There was a point in time when there were only 2 blue robots on the blue side of the field and 4 robots on the red side of the field. Not only starving them a little bit, but forcing congestion on that red side of the field. If you are up against a high-powered alliance, this might be one of the better strategies to implement, is force congestion on that side and try and starve them of the balls and have some sort of combination of the 2. Unfortunately, blue didn't have the offensive firepower, so we see 6919 here forced to go to the other side of the field to pick up balls. Unfortunately, blue didn't have the firepower here to keep up with it. But I think had they had a little bit more firepower, this may have been an effective way to try and take out that number 2 seeded alliance. And, I mean, they kept the scores close. I think, this was the 2 seeds' low scoring match with 64 points, and the blue alliance had 53. So there was not a big gap in the score there.
Yeah. It reminds us of Dalton, semifinals when we went up against 1771, right? we needed to have some good defense. And Tosh Tech played some really good defense, right? You still needed some missteps on the higher seed to pull that close. But the first thing you have to do is do what you can control, is play the defense and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the match I wanted to show. I thought this was. I saw this from the stands. I was like, hold on a minute. Look at how much cargo is on this side of the field. Hold on a minute. Look at the congestion on that side of the field. This is brilliant strategically. And it was like the only shot that the Blue Alliance had. So hats off to you, 7104, 6471, 7538, for showing some cool strategery going on at the event.
All right, and with that being said, before we move on to our district champs preview, we'll give a shout out to our Chairman's in the Eye winners of 1683, the Techno Titans, winning their Chairman's Award. Congratulations, that's awesome work. And 6919, the Hometown Commodores, bringing home the medals with an EI as well as an event win. So awesome work to 6919.
Yeah, I think they're number one. Are they number one in district points right now? Or?
They are third.
Mechanisms is number one in district points.
Yeah, 1771's sheer robot performances have bumped them to then second place.
Yeah, it's the 10 points of rookie points they get that puts them just a couple points ahead of 1771.
Yep.
There you go. Let's look at the rankings. Yeah, 8736, 1771, and 6919. Gutting 72 at Columbus and 72 at Albany.
Mm-hmm. Tight race up there at the top.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So with that said, talking about rankings, we're moving on to our district championships preview. We've got 32 of the teams, the state's best teams competing at the Mercer event in Macon, Georgia, which will be interesting. I know it was slated to be the 2020 state championship venue, but I don't believe there have been any robotics competition events there for FIRST Robotics, so it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if I heard correctly from somebody that the pits will be in a different area from the competition field, so it'll be interesting seeing what the event layout looks like. It'll also be interesting just looking at our district standings here for our top 32 events. So you've got the 32 registered teams so that makes sense that the payment deadline was at 5 p.m. I think that they would be a pretty thoroughly locked in 32 teams by now. I was going to comment that there's some possibility that the 32 highest ranked teams aren't necessarily going to be the 32 teams at the event, so it'll be to go through it a little bit more finely just to see if there are any shifts in which teams are actually going to be attending compared to the actual standings.
Yeah, so here's our list of teams, 32 best teams in the state of Georgia going at it. What do we want to discuss here?
I think it's going to be an awesome event. I think number one, in my opinion, we're seeing the best singular robot PCH has ever seen in the 1771 robot. They're going to be one of the top robots in the world, but we're going to be seeing them compete against other Georgia teams for one more event, but it's going to be the most stacked PCH event I think I've also ever seen. That's going to be quite a show, so I'm very much looking forward to it. It'll be incredibly intriguing just to get our hands on the qualification schedule, probably at the end of Thursday, for depending on when they fully lock that in. But yeah, that qualification schedule is going to determine a lot. So.
I think more than any individual robot performance, I think the qual schedule is going to determine who seats one or not. Because I think the depth of this event is so good that where in events past, 1771 was able to brute force their way through any matchup, I think that there are certain situations where they like if quals just RNG rolls against them, they could end up just with a couple matches where it's just hard. And I think that the biggest thing is, I think the seed 1, it's not like you can't lose a. I think the case to get 1 is you can't lose an RP. I think not getting a climb bonus RP or not getting a cargo bonus RP here and there, that's going to be a lot, because I think unicorn matches are going to become a lot less rare at this event. You already saw at Albany, which has a lot less cargo scoring talent than what we're going to see at State. Have a quarter of their matches get cargo RP and another quarter get climbing RP. You can expect those numbers to increase, and I expect unicorn matches to be more common than not at the States level.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see. You could actually probably have a better alliance in qualifications that you can assemble through the draft, and that it's possible you could get 3. Can't predict it, right? It may not happen, but you could see 3 of those top 5 or 6 put together and just going to town and putting up
some rock paper scissors on who's playing defense in a match.
Yeah.
Or like, why do I have to play defense?
Defense, guys.
Yeah, if that actually does happen, it'd be interesting to see. Does the cycle times of the balls coming out of the high goal actually impact the capacity for them to, could they put up more if they've been faster? We'll see if that happens, but you're going to sit in the stands during calls. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yep.
I
want to counter Thomas's point where he's like, I personally think this is still 1771's number 1 seed to lose, unless they get
I'm not saying they're not the favorite. I just don't think it's a bona fide sure thing.
On any given Sunday, I think is the NFL terminology here. I think to Brian's point about Albany, he's like roll this event 5 times out of 5, or any given instance, you're going to have a different winner. That I think this is still like we're saying 1771's event to lose, but there are possibilities there.
If Mechanisms and Walton go up against 1771 and they just have some mid-tier bots, I would think that's gonna happen, right? That they would lose that match, and so they can lose. But all that being said, what I don't see in doubt is if they're not the number 1 seed, the first pick, right? And they're still going to be the team that you want to be.
Everyone has to try and beat.
Yeah. Well, the whole weekend's going to be revolving around getting picked by 1771. Or if there's any slim chance you're one of the teams that has any possibility of picking them.
Yeah. I think, Kellen, you said it right. We've had some really good teams, right? ECR was competing, right? They were a top team, and they did really well at Worlds too. But there wasn't a huge gap like we're seeing between 1771 and the top, the rest of the teams. 69-19 put up 20. In Columbus. I'm not sure what they did specifically in playoffs, but 1771 putting up around 20 by themselves. That 4 extra cargo plus the 6-ball auton just makes them just so hard to beat.
It's routine for them. It's not it's by no means an outlier for a 1771 performance. It's just what they do. It's trying to stop them is where you gotta put some creative pieces together on any way to just slow them down is your only hope here.
Well, interesting. Last week when Christopher was on, the drive coach for 1771, he thought that they could up their game from where they're at, and if they come in with more than 20, if they're in the mid 20s, have fun.
Yep.
You don't want to play against them.
There's 2 teams right now that can solo the cargo RP. That's 1771 and mechanisms.
I
Mechanisms.
think the mechanisms are an inherent
for high
disadvantage.
goals, I think is an important asterisk on that comment.
Yes, for high goal, soloing the cargo RP. It's those two teams. Mechanisms, we don't know if they're going to come with a climber, but they didn't have a climb. 1771 has a traversal. So in any given match, it's almost a guarantee they're getting the cargo RP. It's almost a guarantee they're getting the hanger RP. Almost a guarantee they're getting the hanger RP just by their traversal alone. They just need another bot that can climb mid bar to get it. Like, they will get at the minimum 2 RP in every single match, and they will most likely win every single match, or they'll most likely win most of their matches, barring, like you guys said, they have 2 robots that are not amazing, and they're up against an alliance of Ignite, Mechanisms, and Walton. Right.
That's right. I think Chris revealed something interesting that I think might just be their weakness. I think the key strategy against 1771 here is just pull up some cheesy poof stats and be like, well, it looks like they're scoring more cargo than you, and hope they stay out on the field a little too late to get the hanger RP. Hopefully 1771's not listening to this.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be a fun time there. I look at at Albany. I think it was around 27 ranking points was the 8 seed. Everybody's gonna be getting ranking points. The number of unicorns, like Thomas said, are just gonna be insane. I think the scores to win are gonna be a lot higher. Winning out with 20, 25. The 30 is probably not going to be in most matches. You're going to need to do a lot better than that.
Well, I think there are going to be a handful of teams at the top that are going to view a 3 RP match as a loss or a disappointment. Like, we needed to have 4 there. That we needed those points to stay in the up there in the standings. With a 3, where we bumped down a bit and are going to struggle as a result of it. Mm-hmm. That it's going to be crazy to watch that standings race as things go on.
This is kind of a side note, but I just want to say First did an amazing job with this game. Like, both ranking points are within reach of a lot of teams. It's not over the top impossible to get them. At first, I thought not being able to solo one of the hanger RP was a bit challenging. I thought it would be more challenging to get the cargo RP. Teams have proven both of those points wrong, and this is an entertaining game to watch in qualifications because of that.
Well, and with the depth of events like state championship events where teams are having to qualify their way in, or I think particularly the single world champs event this year, I think First has a lot of leeway to use that. We're going to increase the amount of cargo it's going to take to get that cargo RP because it's so routine that we need to make it any more difficult.
And it wouldn't be the first time they've had to do something like that. They increased, and they probably didn't increase in 2016. They had to increase the number of bowlers to get the.
I think it was from 8 to 10 that they increased.
Yep.
And then even then, I think it was too low. I think they probably needed to increase it to 12.
Well, that was also a little different because back then, the first year the RP system, the 4 RP system they had, right? And in elims, you got actually bonus points for getting the cutoff. Now that they just, you just get the RP in quals and the elims, you don't get any bonus. So they don't have to worry about increasing it because, it doesn't affect elims like it used to.
Well, yeah, that's where it's interesting. Yeah, that the quintet or things like that have no place in elims for not having any of the typical bonus points, kind of like Brian's referencing.
Right. So another interesting thing about how the season's shaked out, we have 3 teams with Commodores, Mechanisms, and 1771 North Gwinnett having dual blue banners going in. So you actually have fewer teams with the blue banners going into states because of the doubling up, which allows for a clumping of about 10 teams that now are all close to each other going into states that can set themselves up for worlds. Where if you had all the blue banners spread around, it'd be harder for those teams without a blue banner to sort of climb their way back into the points race. So I thought that was kind of interesting to see. Basically, if you make it to the quarterfinals in the states, you're looking at about 150 points. And so all those teams from 11 on up, get the quarterfinals, can see themselves in the hunt for Worlds.
Mm-hmm. It's just stressful thinking about qualifying for Worlds.
You just have to win state. Why worry about 3 points? Let's just win state.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard. So speaking of things that are not that hard, why don't we get some top fives of who we think are the top 5 teams in the state?
Thomas, you want to go
I
first?
will start.
Okay.
Number 1, very controversial number 1 pick, 1771. No one shocked. Number 2 in the district, I think it is 2974. The dual intake wonder, Walton Robotics. I think towards the end of Carrollton, I think they were shooting lights out. I think they're going to come into states with a lot of momentum. I think that is fantastic. Number 3, I have 6919. Every year they're slept on. Every year. And I think this is their year. They are one of the they don't have a swerve, and they're one of the best shooters in the district. They have no swerve, no turret, and they've come to play. Number 4, I have the Mechanisms, team 8736. I think that them not having, and you guys can talk about all you want about, oh, it doesn't matter, but they can keep shooting. You cannot tell me that they can score 3 balls faster than the 2 seconds it takes for a mid-bar climb. That the fact that they don't have a climber is a weakness in quals, because now they're relying on 2 other teams having climbs, and one of them having a high bar climb at least in their alliance, and it makes it harder to play around, because if it's the case where there's no balls on their side of the field, like what happened in the quarters that match that Anupam saw, I think it's a lot harder for them if they go to the other side of the field and they can't get any balls. They lose in-game value. So that's why I have them at 4. And number 5, I think it's a team that is ramping up towards states. They scored, I think it was like 18 or 15. Yeah, it was at least 15 balls in the high bar at Albany. They seem to have some Auton stuff that they're trying to work out, but I think it's Ignite has crept their way into the top 5. And though there are some notable teams that I have left out, I'm a big believer on picking on the trend line. And I think all of these teams are curving in the right direction for a very fun state championship.
So I think we can talk about order on some of that on 4 of them. I like what we're doing. I'm not sure I'm not putting 6 Ignite in my top 5. I would go North Gwinnett Mechanisms, because they've done it consistently for 2 competitions, and they may not have the climb, but don't let them get loose. I have Walton 3 because of the swerve and their ability to do limelight. I have Commodores 4 just because of the fact that they have to go from their spot. They don't have a limelight. They're a little more restricted on what they can do. And then number 5, who was my 5th one? I forgot. I forget. Let me see.
4188 is a robot I'd toss up there. I think they've got some
Yeah.
improvement to
Hold
be
on.
made.
My fifth one, 4188 Columbus. Yes. Yep.
Gotcha. Yeah,
You have four swerve bots in your top 5.
well, for good reason. It
It's a
seems to work
swerve
out pretty
game.
well for this game, Thomas.
Yeah.
But I think 4188 is interesting solely because they've done as well as they have, but there's been notable area for improvement for them.
Yeah.
I think they're a team that's cranking out a significant amount of cargo. I'd put them in right in that area with 6919, where they're putting out a fair amount of cargo. They have the climb. I think they have the traversal climb more consistently. I think 6919's dropped their traversal climb and are only really focusing on the high, which I think is a very valid strategy. But it'll be interesting to see if they can't put their foot on the gas a little bit and make things smooth things out just a bit to give make a push for a late Elims run this upcoming weekend. But otherwise, I'm largely in agreement with these lists for 1771. Obviously, I'm personally putting mechanisms at number 2. That shooting is lights out. They're one of the harder robots to defend in this district. Yeah, they don't have a climber, but watching them shoot just lights out on an open field while everybody else is climbing is just a thrill to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, having them 6919 and 4188 right there. I'm going to put Walton right in that neck of the woods too. I think those 3 teams are pretty interchangeable at that tier for 6919, 4188, and 2974. I think the shooting on those teams can be lights out on a given match. I think the 3 of them are a little bit more defendable. But then there's a little bit of a separation on the climbing game, obviously, for those 3 teams. But I think,
and I would put 4180 above 6919, and I would agree that Columbus, Mechanisms, and Walton are all clumped together. It's just there's just a big jump from the 15 to 17 to the 20 that North Gwinnett has.
So
Anupam?
For my top 5, it's pretty much the same, right? 1771's number 1. I'm going to go with Kellen on 8736 Mechanism number 2. My number 3 is Commodores, right? Well, I think early on I thought Commodores would be defendable, but if you see them driving, they drive around defense. They have a lot of practice driving. I thought early on that the opposite side of the field would be a problem for them. They proved me wrong at Albany with that. They're just super quick, super well driven. I'm high on the Commodores. Then I'm going to put Walton and Columbus. We've already kind of hashed out the reasons for that. I do want to throw a curveball in there. I'm going to name a 5 through 8 here, and we can discuss this a little bit. I don't know what the order of these would be, but my 5 through 8 would be 1261, IHOT 1414, Ignite. And I'm going to throw Auto in there, but I'm going to specifically say Auto right now is number 8, if anything. If they even crack the top 8, they're number 8.
I don't have Auto number 8.
Thomas, I do remember saying you just before this call, you're picking on a future performance, I believe was how you put it. Correct me if I'm wrong on that quote, but
No, undoubtedly, Auto is curving upwards. It's what Auto does, but I don't. The classic. It does. Friday doesn't matter, and Saturday we'll have fun. But I just think the consistency with the high. Either we're shooting really, really slow into the high goal, or we're missing half of our shots.
Let me check my clock. There's still 2 days until the championships start.
You might have inside information on that. So, I agree. I think that those next clump of teams are all right around there. We've seen some improvements coming at Albany. It'll be interesting to see, if they continue, if they stabilize, did the fast turnaround from Albany to districts, not give teams time to repair. I had some stuff to work on. Hopefully they get their stuff taken care of and they come in ready to go because they were really a fun team to watch and zipping up there doing a consistent traversal. But it's also interesting that we don't have a traversal climb as a primary weapon in their top 5.
I think traversal climb's a bait. I think the time it takes from mid to high makes it reasonable. You don't need traversal climb for the RP, especially considering how ready and available a mid-bar climb is. And I think every single team that has gone for the traversal bar has fallen, and it's ended up being detrimental. 1414 fell and broke. 1771 fell and broke. Like, it is high bar is what is, I think, the max you need.
I'm going to agree with Thomas here. I think more than a traversal, a really fast high bar like you guys have Ignite and we have and 1617 has.
1771 also has. I have seen that puppy. It's a wicked fast.
Yeah,
wicked fast high bar.
I think that becomes more valuable than the traversal. And again, comes back to keeping your bot on the field for a little bit longer, coming in at the last second, and not having that danger of potentially falling from the traversal run.
So I think that's going to lead to some interesting choices then for alliances, especially as you're making any first round or second round choices. There are going to be traversal bots on the field, but how do they effectively tie into your alliance's strategy? And all right, if you take your 20 to 30 seconds to get all the way to traversal, how are we coordinating on you getting back early enough to then not have a defender for those last 30 seconds, to you get up there so then we can follow? And it's a very big decision for alliances to make, and tying together those skill sets and creating an effective alliance. So it'll be some interesting choices, I think.
Yep.
All right. So do we want to go into our next segment? I think, Brian, you had some wagers.
Yes. All right. I'm going to pick. I have one of the questions in mind. Who wants to go first and ask the question?
Okay.
Want to go first?
What's the question?
No. I want to volunteer first.
I'll go first. I'm a coward.
How many teams will have 40 RPs? That's it. 40 or more.
40. Do some quick maths. There are 12 matches. So 40 divided by 12. 3.33 RP per match.
All right,
give me 5. 5 teams.
Anupam?
40 RP per match. Or
not
40
overall. 70-71's good, not that good.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with 6. One more than Thomas.
6. Oof.
I see.
There's a bold strategy here, Cotton.
I see the top 5 that we've discussed not only getting the 2 bonus RP, but winning the majority of their matches. I think that gives them enough room to put them over 40. And I think one more team will be able to break that hasn't yet with their changes to state. I think it's going to come down to the schedule, but I think there's at least 6 teams that can do it.
I think can is the key word there. What you have to remember here is that somebody has to lose matches at these events. My guess is 3 teams.
3? Okay. Yeah. Now, Mr. Brian, I have a question for you.
Well, hold on.
Whoa. He's got to get his number.
Brian gets to
You got to document things
I
for
also
future.
agree with Kellen, right? There are going to be matches where you just get outgunned. I'm gonna say 5. I thought about 4, but I'm gonna say 5.
No, pick a different number. I already picked
All right,
5.
all right. Then I'll
I
take
already
4
picked
then.
5.
I'll take 4.
Okay. Oh,
3, 4, 5,
there we
6.
Pick your
There
own
we go.
number.
There we go. I picked first for a reason. You can't copy my number.
All right. So somebody else pick a question and have some. And I'll go first.
All right. How many RPs? Stick with RPs. Do you think it's going to take to be the 8th seed?
34.
I'll go first again. I think it's going to be 30.
Well, Brian just went first.
Yeah, I
Oh.
said pick a question. I'll go first. I'll say 34.
34. Well, I'll go second. I'll say 30.
I'm gonna go with 36. You got to have 3 RP averaging to be top 8.
Oh, I did my math.
Then this is where I think it's really interesting looking at like the Israeli district championship. Just I think it had incredible strength, but looking at the rankings for that event, there were literally I think by the end of quals there were 6 teams that had a qual or ranking score less than 2. That is outrageous. But to compare some quick numbers there, their number 8 alliance wound up having.
Are you looking at other
You're
places?
cheating.
I was.
Come on.
Kellen
I
is
was
cheating.
Whoa,
Come
whoa, whoa,
on.
whoa! There were no rules
on.
posted for this. All right. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with a. We'll go with 29. We'll do the $1 Bob. But I think it's gonna be you're gonna have. I think it'll be an interesting situation because there are probably some teams out there that are that would rather be in a position to be ranked low enough to be end up being a third bot, but will wind up putting themselves in the spot like ranked too high and not be available.
I think 73-15 is going to get caught in that trap. I think they're going to end up being an alliance captain, and it's going to end up hurting them.
Okay.
It's the trap Ignite got caught in 2018. You guys were too good at the switch, too good at the. Yeah, you made yourself an alliance captain, and that was the nail in your coffin.
Oh yeah. So, all right, Anupam or Kellen, you have to go first. I have a question. Who's going to volunteer to go first?
I'll go first. Oh,
Aha.
rock, paper, scissors.
How many unicorn matches will we see at States?
So define unicorn. Is that 4 RP to the winning and 2 to the losing? Because Blue Alliance defines it just as 4.
Just defining 4 RP to the winning alliance.
I guess I'll go first.
All right. So first off, let's define how many matches are there going to be because there's 32 teams.
There's probably around 80. Maybe low 80s.
So 32 times 12 divided by 6. Let's do some math. So
There's 26.
64 matches?
Yeah, it's the amount of teams times 4 is the amount of opportunities because you have 2 alliances in each match. So it's the amount of matches times 2, but the amount of teams times 4. So it's 64.
There were 33 teams at Dalton.
128 matches?
No, 128 opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Only 64 matches. Because each alliance in each match has an opportunity. So you have 2.
There wasn't supposed to be math tonight. No math.
But so there's 2 opportunities per match is all I'm saying. So the amount of matches times 2. So I believe the number winds up being 128 opportunities for unicorns. But obviously only half of those then on any match have the opportunity to have the unicorn because you have to win the match. So you can't have greater than 64 unicorns.
Yeah.
So you're writing an algorithm here? Just curious.
I'm just not wanting to put out a ridiculous. Anupam, I think, said he was going first on this one, right?
Yep.
As the late Mark Leon said, this is why we do the math. So out of 64 matches, I think we are going to see 48 of those have unicorns, 4 RP.
48. Holy come
Wow.
on.
Ooh,
I mean, you look at the teams going. You look at Albany. Where
that is awfully
it was-
low.
What do you think 48 is low?
like you look at the team list going. You look at Albany. How even the unicorns they were getting weren't the result of a single robot performance. They were a result of a combined alliance. You just take that concept and go to a deeper event, and you're going to see it way more often. It's not a unicorn anymore. It's just a normal pony.
Right. Well, the thing is, I think where you need the help is on the climb, right? Because you're going to need to get a high and a mid, and the mid and low are kind of easy for climbers, right? But I'm not sure that you're going to always end up with 2 on the winning alliance. So anyway, so you booked your number. All right. Yeah. Who's next?
I'll go next. I think, though I did make fun of Anupam for choosing a high number or a low, quote unquote low number, I do think it's going to probably be around 40.
Not 64?
Not 64. I'm not a lunatic.
The perfect event.
There's going to
You know what? No, I think there's going to be 64 matches where all 6 RP are done. Boom.
I'm going 35. I'm going 35.
Nah, I'm going 40. I'm going 40.
I'm going to go 30.
Brian
That's
Kellen.
right. Looking at numbers for Albany, Brian, it looks like there were the 16 out of 104 opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Well, those number of opportunities are divided by 2, right? Because you can realistically only have 50. There are 52 qualification matches. You can only realistically have 52 unicorns.
Well, still, so that means there are more opportunities at state champs. But I think that number is gonna pretty easily more than double. But
so
yeah,
Mr. Kellen. Mr.
Yes.
Kellen, you have to go first. It is required by law.
Yep.
Required by law. You
Highest.
have to go first. High score in quals.
Let's see. So PCH, just to get some numbers out there.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, here we go.
Need some context.
Okay. So I believe the high score for Peachtree was set in Carrollton. I believe. We're gonna pull it up here quick. I think it's 119 or something. Yeah, 119 in qualifications, 71 at Carrollton, I believe, is PCH's current high score. And that's a combination of 1771 in Walton with 3581 as a third bot. I think we're going to wind up with a just ridiculous quals pairing of 3 of the top bots in the state. And I'll put up a 150.
Whew. What's the high score on in the world right now?
Like
178.
78.
You both are wrong. It is 191 points. I think I'm gonna go 146.
So I'm going to break it down by points. 6 taxi points.
Oh,
Plus,
come on, man.
24 cargo points in autonomous. That's 30 points. 2 high bars and a traversal. That's 26 points. So what are we at now?
Come on, man. 2 traversal bars.
No,
come on.
2 highs, and this is how I think the high score is going to break down. 2 highs and a traversal. So essentially, okay, imagine 1771 and Commodores and Ignite or something. Some crazy pairing like that goes there. 6-ball Auton gets 2 high bars and a traversal. So that's 56 points right there. And then we're looking at, I think, 40 cargo. That's 80 points plus 56, 136. That's my guess.
You said 136?
Yes.
He did a lot of math there. I just said, I think 130. But your math helped it's sort of like my numbers about seems reasonable to me.
I think we will see an alliance put up 40 cargo in a quals match, just with the firepower we have going.
Yeah, I can very easily imagine a situation in which 3 powerhouse teams are on alliance, but they don't quite have the coordination down and wind up stumbling over each other more than they seamlessly flow together. So I can envision some struggles there. But all right, any other thoughts on our district championship event before Wednesday night rolls around and teams start loading in at Mercer?
I think it is going to be the best event that Georgia has ever had.
Yeah.
Yes.
Best event.
I'm really
I think
looking forward to
Elam's-
it.
And I think the thing that for me is going to be the most entertaining is even though 1771 is by far the best robot in the state, I think that there are so many teams where in years past it's been a list of 4, maybe 5 that can win it. I think the list is really long this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
It's
they've got
32
their
teams
choice of the pool. They create a lot of flexibilities for the alliance partner they wind up pairing up with to say, all right, who pairs best with our skill set for either playing on the opposite side of the field, how climbs will wind up working together, that our autonomous modes wind up working together. I think there's a lot of fun questions to answer there. For teams having some flexibility through quals and then figuring out again how to seamlessly match up your competencies and build the best sum of parts for those alliances. Because again, talking about who's climbing when, how defense is going to work. I think we get some real fun opportunities for either triple offense or rotational defense on, all right, you play offense until the car goes out in your zone, and then you play defense. And there's, I think, a lot of fun to be had when the depth of the event is such that it is that we're going to wind up with quite the show in Mercer.
I look at 2019 and we had 4 strong bots. I think it was Walton, ECR, 1102, and Otto going in there, and is a strong field. Stronger than it had been in previous years, and now we're going in with 8 to 10 bots that are really strong, and it's gonna be a blast. And I hope that this carries over in the next year.
Yeah, I really hope that there is a full practice field there. I think one of the coolest moments one of the coolest moments to me was in 2018. State championships before Elam start, you just see a line of teams out by the practice field trying to develop autonomous modes. And that is one of the most inspirational things to see. Like, as somebody who's heavily invested in the programming side of things, is seeing all these teams trying to perfect their autonomous modes and taking advantage of that practice field. And it was just a quarter field or a half field, not even a half field at that. In 2019 state championship, we had the full practice field, and we saw teams just practicing and developing those autonomous modes. I want to see state championship really shine and bring out the best in the state. That full practice field will help a ton.
I pinged Parker in PCH Mentor Slack. I'm like, if we can't have a full field, can we just get carpet to do autonomous, right? We don't need to necessarily have the field element. I'm sure a team would bring in their hub if needed to, but just a time to get that pathing down would be huge for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's an awesome thing for Georgia First that they've considered and have done in the past for obviously way back in the regional days, but making that the state championship a huge show, especially with just the 10 Peachtree teams qualifying for world champs, that the more we can do to make this district championship event a real show and provide teams with the opportunity to kind of play at their highest level and make those improvements throughout the event, I think that really amplifies that. And again, allows teams to hit their highest peaks at the right time, and you wind up with some real amazing elimination performances as a result of it.
Mm-hmm. All right. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you there. Looking forward to seeing every team there. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if anybody's made changes since their last event. I guess especially any of the Albany teams. So it's a few days turnaround time, but we'll see what the robots look like and how the action unfolds. But, all right. Any other thoughts before we wrap up?
North Carolina is beating Kansas 40-27.
Oh,
this reminds me of Grits when they'll call out like the football scores as the event goes on. But all right, with that being that, we're going to wrap up the show. Again, looking forward to seeing everybody there. Looking forward to some awesome matches. Anupam shooting this shot. We'll put lots of cargo going into some hubs. It'll be a show to watch. But we'll see you all there, and have an awesome time in Mercer. PCH teams, good luck.
Good luck.
See ya.